us on schedule. Is that okay, Richella? Okay, so it's Richella's turn up. She's been talking about how not to be toxically positive all year, which has made it really hard for me because I don't really know how to encourage her. How can I say, you'll do great, if it sounds like I'm faking the, it's just a kid, I'm just joking. Anyway, Richella says, these are her words, I would like to thank God for blessing me throughout these thesis preparations. Also, thank you to Mr. Wade, who's been very patient in waiting for me to submit my thesis, as well as Miss Maymay, who guides me. And thank you to my best advisor, Ibu Yossi, who's helped me since my Karel. I would also thank my family and friends for giving me their best support. Lastly, I want to thank both of my panelists, Mr. Booty and Miss Anita. Please let me pass the thesis. That was directed right at you, I think. Okay, her title is Smile, You're Being Watched. How the Pursuit of Happiness Silences Real Emotion. Give me a second to set up the timer and I'll tell you when you can start. All right, you can start whenever you're ready.
Imagine scrolling through your social media at 2 a.m. after crying alone at your room. All you see are posts with captions, good vibes only, choose happiness, or see on the bright side. After reading those quotes, you convince yourself, you settle your phone down, force yourself to smile, as if pretending that nothing happens. You then tell yourself, maybe I'm just being negative. For a moment, everything may feel alright, as if pretending to be happy can make all the pain disappear. But once the smile fades, the exhaustion, anxiety, and loneliness is still there, because the feelings were never truly dealt with. We live in a world that constantly tells us to see on the bright side. Positivity has become more than an encouragement, it started to feel like a moral duty. However, when optimism silences fear, frustration, sadness, or disappointment, positivity stops being healthy. Historically, one early root is in the New Thought movement during the 19th century. Beginning in the 1830s and associated figures like Phineas Parkus Quimby, this movement taught that thoughts and affirmations could shape reality, health, happiness, and prosperity. In its worldview, suffering could be traced back to incorrect thinking. And the solution to this was to correct the mind through principles like the power of the mind, creative visualization, and what we often hear called the law of attraction. Whether or not we agree with those ideas, the legacy is clear. It helped popularize the belief that your inner mindset is the main key to changing your life. Then, in the mid-20th century, positive thinking entered the American mainstream culture even more strongly. In the 1950s, Norman Vincent Peale's book, The Power of Positive Thinking, encouraged people to adopt an optimistic mindset and use practices like affirmations and visualizations. It presented positivity not just as a feeling, but as a strategy for success, inner peace, relationships, and even health. Over time, positive thinking became a part of everyday life, something you were expected to practice, almost like a discipline. Later, psychologists began to study on how optimism works on real human behavior. In the 1980s, researchers focused on something called unrealistic optimism. Psychologists Nell Weinstein, for example, found that many college students believed they were more likely than their peers to experience positive outcomes and less likely to experience the negative ones. This research matters because it shows that optimism can become distorted. Sometimes people use positive beliefs not to cope realistically, but to protect themselves from anxiety. By the 2010s, the modern term toxic positivity became more popular in public conversations about mental health. Especially as social media expanded, many people began to notice a cultural shift. Happiness was not only encouraged, it was expected. Online, the good vibes mentality only spreads even quickly. People display curated versions of their lives, and optimism often became a performance. People display curated versions of their lives, and in that kind of environment, negative emotions were treated like something wrong, embarrassing, inconvenient, or attention seeking. So, when we talk about toxic positivity today, we are not only talking about one rude comment or one incentive friend. We're talking about a long history of ideas, sociological, cultural, spiritual, and lastly, digital, that slowly turned positivity into a standard people feel they must meet. Now, let me define what I mean clearly. Toxic positivity is the social pressure to constantly be happy, hopeful, and upbeat in a way that dismisses, minimizes, or invalidates normal negative emotions. It is not the same as healthy optimism. Healthy optimism says, "This is hard, but I believe I can take the next step." Toxic positivity says, "If you feel bad, then you're doing something wrong." Therefore, positive thinking should not be pursued at the expense of authentic emotional expressions for three main reasons. Firstly, the social enforcement of positive thinking fosters a culture of toxic positivity that suppresses authentic emotional expressions. Next, enforced positive thinking breeds superficial empathy and isolation by devaluing authentic emotional expressions. And lastly, the belief that individuals are responsible for maintaining constant happiness pressures them to suppress genuine emotions and view emotional struggles as a personal failure. This leads to my first main point. The social enforcement of positive thinking fosters a culture of toxic positivity that suppresses authentic emotional expressions. Human beings naturally experience a wide range of emotions. Fear, sadness, anger, and disappointment are not flaws, they are signals. They help us understand what hurts, what matters, and attention. However, in a culture shaped by toxic positivity, these emotions are often treated as something wrong. Instead of being understood, they are dismissed. And when the society teaches people that their pain is unacceptable, they do not stop feeling the pain. They simply stop admitting it. I like to describe toxic positivity with a metaphor. It is like a cake that looks perfect on the outside, but inside it's just styrofoam. Beautiful frosting, impressive decorations, yet it cannot nourish you. Toxic positivity may look comforting on the surface, but it provides no real emotional support underneath. In the same way, forced happiness may appear healthy, but it hides real struggles that remain unresolved. We see this pattern in everyday life. Imagine a student walking out of a difficult exam, feeling defeated, and saying, "I'm really worried, I think I might fail." A friend quickly responds, "Just be positive, everything will be fine." For a moment, those words may sound comforting, but the worry does not disappear, the fear does not disappear. Instead, the student learns to hide it because the message was not, "I understand," but "don't feel that." This leads to emotional suppression, pushing down real emotions instead of processing them. Research by psychologists James Gross and Oliver John found that individuals who habitually suppress their emotions experience a lower well being, weaker relationships, and a higher psychological stress. In other words, acting okay is not the same as being okay. Over time, these suppressions can increase stress, reduce self awareness, and weaken emotional resilience. Beyond psychology, this pattern also affects the brain. Emotional experiences are regulated by networks involving regions such as the prefrontal cortex, amygdala, and reward system. The individuals constantly force themselves to stay positive, the system become imbalanced. Individuals, then, the brain overworks to maintain positive emotions while rejecting the negative ones. Instead of processing these emotions naturally, individuals begin to filter out discomfort entirely. This creates a psychological imbalance where the emotions are no longer experienced authentically but controlled artificially. As this continues, individuals may become disconnected from their true selves. They begin to form what we might call as a mask, an identity built not based on authenticity but on social expectations. Over time, these disconnections leads to an internal conflict. People still feel negative emotions, but they also believe that they are not supposed to feel them. This tension creates guilt, shame, and confusion, preventing the genuine emotional growth. Toxic positivity also creates pressure. People feel forced to appear positive when they are struggling. This pressure often leads to the feelings of invalidations, emotional exhaustions, and even anxiety or depression. When individuals believe that the negative emotions are unacceptable, they lose the ability to process them in a healthy ways. As a result, emotional flexibility decreases and resilience weakens. In addition, toxic positivity often promotes unrealistic optimism. For example, a student may believe that they will achieve a high grades without studying, simply by just staying positive. While this may reduce the anxiety temporarily, it ultimately leads to poor outcomes and a deeper frustrations. Over time, this pattern can create an emotional rigidity where the individuals rely on positivity as a defense rather than engaging with the reality. My second point is this. Enforced positive thinking breeds superficial empathy and isolation by devaluing authentic emotional expressions. Sociologist Erving Goffman describes social life as a performance. According to his theory, individuals present a front stage versions of themselves to meet the social expectations while hiding their true feelings backstage. In a culture that demands constant happiness, people learn to perform wellness rather than to experience it. They smile when they are exhausted. They say, I'm fine when they are not. Over time, honesty feels risky because honesty may lead to judgment. As a result, relationships begin to lose depth. Instead of genuine understanding, people exchange a surface level of reassurance. This is why toxic positivity weakens empathy. True empathy involves listening, validating, and sitting with someone's pain. But in a culture of enforced positivity, empathy is replaced with quick phrases meant to eliminate discomfort. Instead of saying, that sounds really hard, people say, look on the bright side. Pain is not acknowledged, it is avoided. This performance becomes even stronger in a structured environment such as the school and workplaces. Sociologist Arlie Hochschild explains this through the concept of emotional labor, the effort required to manage emotions to meet the social expectations. While some emotional control is necessary, constantly displaying emotions that do not match with the reality creates an internal dissonance. According to the Hochschild's theory of emotional labor, constantly performing emotions that do not reflect with the reality can eventually lead to emotional exhaustion and also burnout. Individuals feel drained from maintaining emotional performances. This creates a gap between how they feel and how they were expected to feel. Social media intensifies this pattern. People often present curated versions of their lives, highlighting their achievement, happiness, and success while hiding their struggles. This connects to Leon Fastinger, which explains that individuals evaluate themselves by comparing themselves with others. Online, these comparisons are often unrealistic. People compare their full reality to someone else's edited highlights. As a result, they may feel inadequate or isolated. Online, these comparisons are also often unrealistic. This reinforces the cycle where people should hide their emotions and struggles, see others hiding theirs, and assume that they must do the same. My third point is this. The belief that individuals are responsible for maintaining constant happiness pressures them to suppress genuine emotions and view emotional struggles as a personal failure. In a modern culture, we often hear messages such as, your happiness is your responsibility, or mindset is everything. While these ideas may sound empowering, they are rooted in a broader ideology that frames happiness as a personal achievement. This idea is influenced by neoliberal individualism, a belief system associated with figures like Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan, which emphasize personal responsibility, independence, and also self management. Over time, this ideology has extended beyond economics into emotional life, suggesting that individuals are fully responsible of their own happiness. However, this creates a problem. When happiness becomes something you must earn, unhappiness becomes something you must blame on yourself. Emotional experiences are no longer seen as natural. They are seen as a personal success or as a failure. This shift turns emotions into a morality. Happiness becomes a sign of strength and discipline, while sadness becomes a sign of weakness. A 2022 study published in Scientific Reports found that individuals who feel a greater societal pressure to appear happy often report a lower psychological well being. As a result, individuals may feel ashamed of their struggles rather than for seeking support. Psychology, this can lead to what Martin Seligman describes as learned helplessness. When individuals repeatedly try to fix their emotions through the forced positivity, but they still feel unhappy, they may begin to believe that nothing works. Over time, they stop trying, stop reaching out, and withdraw from others. For example, imagine someone who constantly tells themselves to stay positive despite feeling anxious or overwhelmed. When those feelings persist, they may conclude that they are failing, not just emotionally, but also personally. This belief creates a cycle of self blame, isolation, and hopelessness. In addition, social norms reinforces this pressure. Society often treats happiness as an expected standard, meaning people feel obligated to display positivity in order to become accepted. Over time, individuals internalize these expectations, regulating not only how they express their emotions, but also how they experience them. As a result, happiness is no longer a genuine feeling. It becomes performance shaped by a social approval. And emotional struggles are no longer understood as a part of being human. They are treated as a personal flaws. Now, I want to address an important counter argument. Some people might say that positive thinking isn't the problem. It depends on the context or the communication. And there's the truth there. Encouragement can become helpful, but it becomes harmful when it replaces real emotional truth. Even gentle positivity can become damaging if the message underneath is, your negative emotions are unacceptable. A healthier approach is to separate toxic positivity from adaptive optimism. Adaptive optimism is hope that includes honesty. It acknowledges struggle while still moving forward. It might sound like, this is painful, I'm anxious, and I can still take one step. Research on healthier emotional regulation strategies, like cognitive reappraisal, shows that resilience grows when we can rethink of our situations without denying what we feel. So, the goal is not to eliminate optimism. The goal is stop using optimism as a way to silence reality. So, what should we do instead? We should practice emotional honesty with compassionate support. This means replacing dismissal with validation. Instead of saying, everything will be fine, we can say, that makes sense. I can see why you feel that way. Or, do you want to talk about what's stressing you? I'm here. You don't have to pretend. What's one step we can take next? These responses do something powerful, like they allow emotions to exist without shame, and they still support growth. They don't force happiness, but they build resilience. Let me close with this. Positive thinking is often presented as the main key to happiness. But when positivity becomes a requirement, when it becomes a mass, we don't become stronger. We become more quieter, more isolated, and more disconnected, not just from ourselves, but also with each other. True resilience is built by not denying the pain, but by acknowledging it and responding with honesty, empathy, and support. So, what will change if we stop treating positivity as a moral obligation? There will be fewer masks, more honest conversations, and more spaces where people could breathe without being judged. It doesn't mean that we give up on hope. It means that we place hope on a stronger foundation, which is reality. Because the healthiest optimism isn't by silencing emotions, but by making space for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Richella. Really great job. Our panelists are Mr. Booty and Miss Anita. Let's start with Mr. Booty.
Thank you, Richella. Yeah, first of all, I want to appreciate you for your hard work and courage in presenting this thesis. I think the topic is very relevant for today's world, especially because many people now feel pressure to always appear happy, positive, and emotionally okay. Particularly, you can see that on the social media. And I think this presentation gives us important reminder that emotions are more complex than simply staying positive all the time. And before I begin my questions, after presenting all of this, are you genuinely feeling positive right now? Or just thinking positively for survival?
So, setting positivity as my standard is something wrong, where it can lead to toxic positivity itself. But the right way to do this is by acknowledging it that, for example, maybe I'm scared in answering your questions, but then I still acknowledging it, and I'm able to take my courage to the next step where I'm confident that I can answer your questions fully.
Okay, thank you. If positive thinking is truly harmful for our emotional expressions, how do you explain physically, like research showing that optimism is linked to resilience, lower stress level, and better mental health outcomes?
So many research have done that shows that positivity and optimism are actually good. It provides like as a support or a better resilience or a better mental health. But then in my thesis, I'm not talking about that. I do not disagree that this optimism is bad, but I promote how the individuals should balance their emotions, both positive and negative, to provide a healthy well being. Therefore, this topic does not only promote this balance, but also it shows that individuals need to regulate their emotions well to provide this good well being.
Okay, you're also talking about validations, right? And then that don't stop them, to express their emotions. And it's okay to validate that, yeah, they are struggling on these kind of things. Related to that, can too much validations prevent people from taking responsibility for their actions and choices?
Thank you for your question. So regarding to answering this question, um, by promoting this what we call it as self-regulation. So we start first by acknowledging what we are feeling. Like for example, we're feeling sadness or we're feeling anger. And then the second step is we find the reasons why we are feeling this way. And the last step is we regulate our emotions and find a greater solution so that we can overcome all these emotions without harming others or it may become something. So therefore, answering your question, it relies back on how the individuals regulate their emotions.
So validations will be on the step 1 or step 2 that you're saying?
On step one.
Step 1. Now, when people have like too much validation, let's say I'm struggling with math, okay, and people say, yeah, it's okay, I understand your feeling, you're probably not too good in this kind of things. Those kind of validations, can it make me becomes a person who, you know, I'll just get rid math from my life?
So what you mean is by
Too much validations?
decrease the hopefulness.
Yeah, those kind of things. I mean, I'm not being positive, on math, for example. And when I hear from the other persons and then they agree with me, they validate my emotions. They say, yeah, not many people can understand math. We understand how you feel. So it's okay. Just go with it. Will that make the persons who hear that becomes, oh, okay, since everyone cannot do math, then why I have to try?
To the scenario that you're saying, that is called the learned helplessness theory, in which like it's stated where if the individuals cannot achieve this standard and they keep on trying but they fail to achieve this standard, then these individuals will stop trying and they will think that they might fail themselves, so like they're a failure and everything, so they stop trying. So the good way to cope with this situation is by allowing our emotions to, like you said, validate them. But also, you need to still apply a balance. Like what I said, you still need to apply the positivity itself while balancing the negative ones.
Can you give a statement which after the validations, then what the the his friend or her friends have to say? I mean, I'm struggling with this also, you know, with my class sometimes.
So, a way that you can respond to these kind of scenarios is by saying, by first acknowledging it. Maybe this matters is hard, but I believe I can take the next step, which is by learning hard, not just by like not learning and I will get a good grades. That means that you're applying toxic positivity.
So it depends on the result also. I mean, if I give hope, like the next test will be, you know, much better, isn't that toxic positivity?
Yeah, if you're applying that the next test, it obviously will become better, then you're wrong in that, because in a healthy optimism, you must both apply the, like what I said, the positive and the negative ones. So by saying that you will obviously be better on the next test, if the person fails, then the person can experience depression, anxiety, sort of stuff like
Yeah.
that. So
Okay, I probably misheard, but you say before that, like, then this is what you can suggest. The next test will be better. No?
if you try hard,
If you
you need
try
to
hard.
work on it.
Okay. But sometimes, you know, in math, even if you work very hard, I remember I say this, you know, what happens if you have this category? Those who study hard get a good grade, and then those who study very hard, and there's a portions of it, and they never achieve what they want. And in the end, you know, if they know the future, if they know that they cannot get a good grade, so what will you choose? Are you still going to take math, you know, focus, put effort on math or not?
I think the most important thing in the context of this is how you should still to put how you should still need to put a hard work, while not only saying that you're gonna be fine. So it doesn't mean that like if you think like you're gonna fail, then you just stop trying. So the most important thing is you still need to try first.
Okay, I agree. And it's not only about math. I'm sorry, Mr. Wade is looking at me. Okay. So it's not only about math. It can be on the workplace. It can be on marriage, right? When you have a hard time and you struggle with that, and you put effort on it, you not depend your hope on the result itself, but also like even the things around you doesn't change, you change, you become a better person. You have gone through the hardship, and that's what matters, right?
Yeah.
So what people think as a toxic positivity, it will be like they put the effort, sorry, their result as their
Unrealistic
answer,
standard.
right? Okay, thank you to clarify that. Um, okay, that's from me. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Mr.
All right, Miss Anita.
All right. Thank you for your hard work in your thesis, Richella.
Thank you, Miss.
Okay, so I think yeah, it's very interesting because I think I'm a pretty, I don't know, stoic person. Yeah, I'm not that positive as well. But yeah, reading this is very interesting for me. However, I would like to clarify a little bit on what is toxic positivity is for you. So based on your thesis, you can say yes or no. Yeah, toxic positivity is when we have unrealistic optimism. Is that correct?
Yes, so toxic positivity often promotes what we call as unrealistic optimism. But toxic positivity itself is the social pressure to constantly be happy, hopeful, and upbeat in a way that dismisses, minimizes, or invalidates normal negative emotions.
Okay, thank you. For my next question is actually a little bit out of topic, but let's just say, um, do you think cancer stadium 4, do you think it's curable?
Um, from what from what I know today, there hasn't been a cure for the cancer.
Okay, thank you. So when we, let's just say, visit the cancer patient and we say that God will help you, God will heal you, God will give you mercy and health. Is that toxic positivity? That because it's unrealistic optimism.
Thank you for your question. In that case, you are applying toxic positivity because you are suppressing the negative emotions since you set this unrealistic standard as like the patient itself will be cured or something. Therefore, like in the context that you put God in the scenario, so applying healthy optimism using a biblical worldview does not only means that like we depend on like God will solve everything for us, but by also doing what we call it in the Bible as lament, which is acknowledging our suffering and pain, and we can say that to God through prayers, but then still believing in having faith that God will help us.
Hey, that's good. Good answer. I think that's pretty interesting thing to put. Yeah, the relationship between positivity and faith. Um, and then okay, that's great. My next question. Okay, so in your page 9 about frontal cortex, prefrontal cortex, about amygdala and stuff like that, I'm a social science student, so not really know much about it. But recently, I also have another thesis student that come to me. She's talking about positive bias in our brain. So, isn't it like positivity? It's inside our brain, right? So it's a natural thing.
So in our brain, uh, these emotional experiences are regulated by networks, which is like you say, involving regions such as the prefrontal cortex, amygdala, and the reward system. So that when the individuals constantly force themselves to stay positive, then this is the part where the system eventually become imbalanced because the brain tends to overwork itself, leading trying to maintain these positive emotions while also they try to reject the negative ones itself. So instead of processing these emotions, it actually become like so the individuals tend to this filter out their discomfort entirely.
Oh, then how to stop that from happening then?
So to stop that from happening is by balancing both the positive and negative emotions and to regulate our emotions well using good coping strategies and apply it in a healthy ways.
What's the coping mechanism? Because like in an environment, of course, positivity. Some in your thesis also say it about people become like toxic positivity because the environment also did not, don't give them encouraging environment. For example, their parents just like force them to be perfect and etc. So, coping mechanism with positivity. Sorry, the positivity become the coping mechanism. So, what coping mechanism are you talking about now?
The coping mechanism that I am talking about is such as like what I have answered to Mr. Budi's questions previously. We start by acknowledging our emotions, like we feel sad, we feel discomfort, and then the next step is to understand our emotions itself. Like for example, what caused us to feel sad or this anger itself. And therefore, the last step is to regulate these emotions well and finding a better solutions by not harming others also, but like provide the best solutions for expressing our emotions well.
Okay, so we can start from toxic positive first, and then after that, we can regulate our emotion to become better.
No, we don't always start with toxic positivity. So regulating our emotions doesn't necessarily mean toxic positivity, but in our everyday life, as humans experience a wide range of emotions like fear, sadness, anger, all of these emotions needs to be regulated.
Sorry. Let me rephrase my question. So let's just say if we already reach toxic positivity, can we like make it as a stepping stone to regulate ourselves, or toxic positivity just always lead to more harm? Which side?
Thank you for your questions. In my topic, toxic positivity often leads to a more harmful and negative effects, such as uh, a lower relationship, like a less genuine relationship, because there's a disconnections from their true selves and also from other people, because there is no honesty anymore in that relationship, and it also can provide some mental health issues such as anxiety, stress, or like a weaker resilience, because by applying this toxic positivity, these individuals often were pressured to meet this expected standard. And when they are not able to achieve this expanded standard, since this toxic positivity becomes their belief, then it will finally leads to like them viewing themselves as like a failure.
Okay, I see. Maybe do I still have time? Oh, okay. My next question. So continuing with what Mr. Woody has said before about, in the workplace. Yeah, I used to work in the corporate banking. So good vibes only, right? Because like if you sad or angry, it will ruin the mood of the whole team. And then after that, when you go home, you also need to be happy, or like, to keep the relationship with your family strong. So yeah, isn't it like contrasting to what you say, toxic positivity create a crack in a relation? For me, I think toxic positivity can lead to better relationship because we protect people that we love. What do you think?
Thank you for your question. As what you have said previously, in a workplace, we are necessary to suppress our emotions because, for example, we need to meet our clients or we need to go on meetings because in that kind of environment, there's no way that we express this negative emotions, right? So, leading back to what you said regarding about how it can make your relationships better instead, toxic positivity, in a way that it suppresses our emotions, it means we tend to hide our struggles inside and we keep it like pretending like as if it was not there. But then like as the time goes on, there might be like a trigger or these emotions will eventually sometimes go out when like you cannot handle it anymore inside. So this is where we need to apply these healthy coping strategies, such as, for example, in workplaces, the boss can create a healthier environments for the workplaces, such as creating a space where the coworkers and the workers can have a healthy conversations about what they're feeling today, and not just by stressing them out to constantly be happy in front of everyone, but also provide a space for them for a better conversation. Same thing with the family. A good family relationships need to make a space where we can share our emotions clearly without being judged.
Hey, thank you. Last one. Regarding what you say about before, look on the bright side. Isn't it the way we also, become grateful of what God has given to us? Even though, let's just say, we suffer, but look on the bright side. Something happened. Because, like, yeah, isn't it the way to be grateful for God's giving to us?
Regarding to what you say, as we experience a lot of things in our lives, we of course have to become grateful for what God has given us. But also we need to remember that God created the human beings with various kinds of emotions such as fear, sadness, anger, and all of these emotions should be acknowledged and not dismissed, because these emotions that God have created are a beautiful part in a human beings. Like even once in the Bible was said that Jesus wept before his crucifixions. Therefore, like feeling negative emotions are not entirely wrong if you acknowledge it. Because also, as I said before, lament is also part of an important in Christian worldview, such as acknowledging the suffering that we feel with God. But then we can also say in a prayer, for example, we are grateful that we're grateful for this, but then we still can acknowledge, for example, God, we are suffering that can we can rely on God fully.
Hey, thank you. Good job. Well done.
Okay, I was about to ask you about the fake it till you make it mentality, but we're out of time. You did a great job, Richella. Excellent job. So we will meet friends and family panelists.